Hi everybody, it's Ashley. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm coming to you with my March wrap-up. This wrap-up was for the Backlist Readathon, which ran from the 9th of the month to the 15th, as well as the rest of the month. And I am very happy to announce that I completed the majority of my TBR, almost all of it for the Backlist Readathon with the exception of one book, and I will get more into why that failed later on. But first, let's get into the ones that I did complete. The first book that I completed this month was Watching You by Jewell. This follows a story of a bunch of different people in this neighborhood that all of their stories kind of intermingle. They all seem to center around this one family in particular, which is a man who is a high school teacher, and his family, his son, his wife, and his son takes photographs of everybody in the neighborhood. He watches them from his bedroom window, and it leads to a lot of paranoia from different people in the city who believe to think that this family is up to nefarious things for various reasons. All of them have a different reason for distrusting this family, particularly the father, and it leads to a messy altercation. This was a very, very intriguing read. I did not like it as much as The Family Upstairs by Jewell, which I found interesting because this was the book that I heard a whole lot about. But sometimes that happens, and I was very, very pleasantly surprised in this. I gave it a 4 out of 5, and I highly recommend that you pick it up. The next book that I read this month was The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. This was probably the biggest surprise for me. I'll be honest, I was not expecting to like this book at all, but it gripped me from the very first page to the very end. This follows a young family. There's two dads who have adopted a young girl from China, and they're all on vacation at this little cabin and are approached by a group of strangers who break in and tell them that they have to sacrifice one of their family or the end of the world is going to occur, the apocalypse. And they are determined to force them to choose, whether it comes to handcuffing them or tying them up, abusing each other, in a means to force them to pick somebody to sacrifice through sheer fear. Every time that they don't choose to do it, they will turn on the news, and anytime anything bad comes on, they'll be like, you could have stopped this. Completely deranged. This was gripping. It was very, very fast-paced, and I gave this a 5 out of 5. It was absolutely amazing. The next book that I read this month was Jo's Boys by Louisa May Alcott. This is the third book in the Little Women trilogy, and I have to say I did enjoy this one much, much more than Little Men. This follows Jo from Little Women as an elderly woman. She has children, she has grandchildren, and it also follows the boys from the school that she ran in Little Men as adults, showing what they are up to now. And the main reason that I enjoyed this one more than Little Men is because Jo was more prominently featured. I had said this in my February wrap-up that I felt she wasn't a big enough character in Little Men, that it focused on the boys way too much, and I wanted to know more about the original characters, and this tied that up a lot. We saw not only more of Jo, but we saw more of Lori, we saw more of Meg, more of Amy, and of their children. So I felt like this tied up a lot of loose ends that Little Men kind of shied away from, and I really, really enjoyed it. I didn't think it was quite as good as Little Women, but I did think it was a worthy sequel, a worthy end to a series. I highly recommend that you read this if you haven't already. I gave this I believe it was a 3-star, but I will double check that and put that up on the screen for you guys. But this was so, so sweet. I really enjoyed it, and I loved getting to know what happened to all of our characters. The next book that I read this month was Pretty Girls by Karin. This book was a wild, wild ride, let me tell you that. I did like this more than The Good Daughter, which was the only book that I had previously read by Karin Slaughter. But I do have to give full disclosure, this is extremely graphic, it is violent, and I have to put a trigger warning on here if you are triggered by sexual assault, if you are triggered by murder. There are very, very graphic descriptions in here, so just be wary of that going in. But that aside, this is a very, very well written story. It is very intriguing, and this follows a story of two sisters who have grown apart, and they're individually going through their own demons 24 years, I believe it is, after the disappearance of their other sister when they were teens, and her body was never found. Nobody ever knew what happened to her. Their father committed suicide a few years later, and they have been grappling with the destruction from that. One destructed into drugs, one married this socialite man and basically shut down, cutting everybody out of her life. But when her husband is killed in a freak accident and she begins going through his things, she stumbles across something unexpectedly and brings her sister into it because she doesn't know what to do. And this leads them to investigating more heavily into their sister's disappearance. This was extremely, extremely gripping. Very well written. The plot twists were incredible, even though a lot of the groundwork for the later half of the book was laid pretty early on. It still did not take away from the twists that happened later. This was an incredible book. 5 stars. Pick it up. You will love this. Okay, and the next book that I have read this month, I have not finished yet, but I should finish it today, and I am filming this on the 30th, so I'm going to go ahead and include that. And that is You Are Not Alone by Greer, Hendricks, and Sarah Pekkanen. I do like this, but I don't like it as much as The Wife Between Us or The Anonymous Girl, both of which I really, really enjoyed. This one is just kind of in the middle for me. I don't hate it. I still think it's well written, but I just don't think it's as good as the other two. I think the problem is there may be a few too many characters and it's a little bit harder to follow. But this follows a woman who witnesses a suicide on the subway, and she feels drawn to this girl for whatever reason. She's not really sure why. But she goes to her memorial service, faking a friendship to explain why she's there. And she draws the attention of a couple of this girl's friends. And they kind of all become mutually obsessed with each other. The main character, Shay, she becomes obsessed with the other girls and with the girl that died, mainly because she envies their friendship, she envies their lifestyle, and with them, they know that she wasn't friends with the girl that died, and they want to know what she knows. They believe she knows something. It's top secret. And they want to know what she knows. They want to know why she's so obsessed with the other girl. And they fake this friendship with her to try to draw more information out of her. I do think that it's an interesting concept, but I'm just not getting pulled in. And like I said, I think it's because it's just following too many people. So it jumps around quite a lot, and I can't really get attached to any one character. But it's definitely worth a read. I just do believe that the other ones were a little bit better. And I guess I will go ahead and talk about the one book that I did not complete for the Backlist Readathon, and that was The Stand by Stephen King. I know that a lot of you guys are probably surprised by this one because I'm such a huge Stephen King fan, and The Stand is considered by many to be his best work. But I mentioned this in my TBR video that I have attempted to read that book a few times before, and I always had trouble making it past the first 100 pages. I never really understood what it was, but it really wasn't gripping me. So I had chosen it for the prompt for the Backlist Readathon of read a book that intimidates you for that very reason. I wanted to complete it. As much as I like Stephen King, I felt like I wasn't a true fan unless I finished this book, and I had the exact same issues that I had the other 4 times that I tried to read it. It was just way too slow. I did make it further. I made it to 200 pages, but I don't like it. I don't know why. I really don't know why. I wish that I did. I'm still going to keep pushing through it because I do want to finish it, but I'm going to take my time with it, and it's probably going to take a few months. But I don't know what it is. I'm not liking that book at all. I've never had an issue finishing one of his books. This is the only one. And it's not only that it very heavily mirrors the coronavirus that's going on right now. It's not that at all. I do think it's ironic that I chose to read it during this time frame. That was completely coincidental. But that's not what the issue is for me. I just am not enjoying it. Again, there are way too many characters, and by the time a character is introduced again, I've already forgotten their storyline or who they are, because it's going back and forth between, at this point in the book, there's probably more later on, like 12 different characters, and I don't remember who anybody is. And I absolutely hate that. Plus, I find it very slow. He's not really getting to the point in it. And it's like, I do think that what I have read is well written. I'm just not engaged by the story. So I will continue reading it, but I might not even finish that one until the end of the year, and I'm not going to hold off on other books while I try to force myself to finish something that I'm not enjoying that much. So just stay tuned for that. My opinion may change the further into it that I get. I have heard a few people say that. But usually I think 200 pages is a good point to say that a slow starter is going to pull you in. But that is all that I have for you guys today. If you liked this video, please make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. Follow me on the social medias down in the description below, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.